Good evening. I'd like to call the Town of Cedar Lake Plan Commission of January 17, 2024 public hearing to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Becker?
Here.
Mr. Parker?
Here.
Mr. Carnahan?
Here.
Mr. Hunley?
Here.
Ms. Stetshauer? Present. Mr. Wilkie?
Here.
Mr. Capora?
Present.
Mr. Oliphant?
Here.
Mr. Deutmeyer?
Here.
Ms. Abernathy? Present. Ms. Heiduch is present.
Okay. All right, first, we got minutes. November 15, 2023, public meeting. December 6, 2024, work session. December 6, 2024, special public hearing. And December 20th, 2024, public meeting.
Mr. President, may I make a minor correction?
Yes.
When I was creating the agenda, I jumped a year ahead. All the December meetings were from December 2023, not 2024.
I thought something was wrong there.
It was me.
Time
Perfect hair.
machine.
Seem familiar?
Time machine. Okay, all these have been distributed, so we have any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion on the minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from November 15, 2023, December 6, 2023, December 6, 2023 special public meeting, and December 20th, 2023 public meeting.
Motion by Ms. Stetshauer, second.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Parker. Roll call, please.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Hunley?
Yes.
Ms. Stetshauer?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkie?
Yes.
Mr. Capora?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Number one, Torak, preliminary plat, owner petitioner Andrea and Nita Torak, 1360 North Spalding Terrace Apartment, 1202 Chicago, Illinois, 60610, vicinity of 8510 West 146th Avenue, Cedar Lake, Indiana. Petitioner is requesting a preliminary plat for one lot subdivision. Are the legals in order there?
They are.
Okay, ready to go? Please state your name and address.
Andrea Torak, 1360 North Sandberg Terrace in Chicago, Illinois, and I'm here with my sister Anita. As you may recall, we just met a couple weeks ago, but what we're trying to do, excuse me, is combine two properties. These properties are on the southwest corner of Cedar Lake. The original property was a two-story house with the bedrooms on the second floor. The property we bought was adjacent to it. And adjacent to the property we bought is the Pinecrest Marina Channel. After we purchased the house next door, we tore down the house and the shed by the water in order to put in a new seawall. At the same time, we tore down the chain link fence and bushes adjacent to the adjacent to the marina, so that Pinecrest could also put in a new seawall. We use the same company, the same seawall, so if you look at it, it appears to be seamless. And once again, both these properties reside at the end of 146th Avenue, which is a dead-end street. Now, the reason we're here is to petition to approve a one-lot subdivision, so that we can put on a building addition to the current house. The building addition will consist of a bedroom, bathroom, and hallway that links the original house to the garage on the new property. And the reason also will be converting part of the original garage to a bedroom. As a result, we will have two bedrooms on the ground floor. Both my sister and I are elderly and have difficulty walking, so we need bedrooms on the ground floor. And the hallway will also be wide enough to accommodate wheelchair access in the future. So, as part of our petition, we have in the past provided you with the preliminary and plat surveys from Turinga Engineering, and also the building additions plans from Hen Construction. So with that, if you have any questions on our petition, we'd be happy to answer.
Okay. Don, do you have anything?
We issued a letter on January 11th, really 6 minor comments. Of note would be number 1, which is recommended engineering waivers, kind of typical for a lot like this. So stormwater detention, since it's immediately adjacent to the lake, park dedication, tree placement, and sidewalks. The remaining 5 comments are ministerial. I've already been in touch with Turinga and Stewart. He's working on them, and they're minor in nature.
Not that that would prevent us from moving forward.
Just make contingencies on the letter, and we'll take it from there.
Okay. We have a seat for a second. I'll call for some remonstrations.
I'm sorry, what?
Could you have a seat for a minute?
Oh, sure, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Are there any remonstrators for or against this request? Are there any remonstrators for or against this request? We have anybody online?
There's 1 person online, but no hands are raised.
No correspondence?
Nothing received.
Okay, public session's closed.
Public hearing.
Public, yeah, the comment. Whatever, you know what I meant. Okay, building department, anything?
We are all good at the building department level. I calculated and put it in your staff report what the total lot coverage with this property would be with the addition, and it would only be 16.9% lot coverage. It's in a resort zoning district that allows for a 50% lot coverage, so they are well under their total allowable lot coverage. The addition portion will handle everything else at building department permitting level.
Commissioners have anything?
No, sir.
I have a couple questions. Don, what are the contingencies other than the storm trees, park, and sidewalks?
The other comments?
What you recommended in contingencies, yes.
So, I mean, the waivers would be those 4 I mentioned: stormwater detention, park dedication, tree placement requirements, and sidewalk. The remaining comments, 1 is just listing the existing zoning of adjacent parcels along with owners and addresses. They have right now a 15-foot fronting utility easement. We prefer that be utility and drainage easement. Number 4, adding provisions for each easement located on that. That's just a paragraph they need to add. Recording information needs to be updated, and then there was a discrepancy between a fronting distance on their plat compared to one we have for Pinecrest. So we think it's actually Pinecrest error. We're working on that, but it's minor. We'll figure it out. It'll be corrected before it's ever recorded.
So you don't have an issue with that easement being utility and storm?
I'm sorry, what,
You said there's a 15-foot easement that you
Yeah, so
recommend?
Stewart is showing a 15-foot wide easement on your fronting of your parcel, essentially along 146th Avenue.
okay.
It's only noted as a utility easement right now. We typically require it be a utility and drainage easement, so it's just a definition of what can go in there, but it's typical of what we require for most
Okay.
1 lots.
But would that change anything on the plans that we submitted?
It would literally add 2 words and then a definition. That would be it.
Okay, but in terms of the actual construction of the
No.
addition, it would not affect?
No, it's inside of your front building setback, so you can't build anything there anyways.
Oh, okay.
It's just for utilities and
Oh,
stuff like
okay.
that in the future.
So what,
That's from the, that's the setback from the road you're
Yes.
talking about?
It's
Okay.
within that area.
You can't do anything
Yeah.
with, okay.
Yep.
so what will be the address of this property?
The address,
8510?
85.
New property to the, huh?
I mean, right now they're showing 8514, so
oh,
we'll need to clarify that.
I'll
As
clarify
the-
with Chief tomorrow.
There's only gonna be one address.
Yes.
It's only gonna be 1 address.
Okay, all right.
but before this was approved or talked about, I did have at the county records office, the both properties combined for tax purposes. And at that time, they did assign, which was my request, 8510.
Okay,
So right now, 8510 is what's used at the county recorder.
okay, we'll just have to change that on the plat then, because Stuart's showing 8514 right now. I
Oh.
don't think we have a problem with
Okay.
either one, so.
Okay, I have nothing else.
Anybody else? If not, I'll entertain a motion here, and, the motion should include Don's letter of 1/11/24.
I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary plat contingent on comments in Don's letter.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Parker, seconded by Mr., forgot your name.
Finally, Jim.
I'm doing good again, huh? By this guy. Okay, any questions on the motion? If not, roll call, please.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Hunley?
Yes.
Ms. Desauer?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkins?
Yes.
Mr. Capora?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Number 2, Cedar Lake Storage, rezone. Owner, Cedar Lake Storage LLC, care of, this law, 12632 Wicker Avenue, Cedar Lake, Indiana. Petitioner Nathan D. Viss, 12632 Wicker Avenue, Cedar Lake, Indiana, vicinity of 9019 West 133rd Avenue, Cedar Lake, Indiana. Petitioner is requesting a rezone from M1 to B2. Are legals in order?
This one's a little unique. We believe so. Can't confirm with 100% certainty. Attorney Viss sent a copy or a photograph of the legal or the certified mailings that went out. We can't confirm addresses yet. He's going to deliver them to the town tomorrow. So if there is an approval, it just needs to be contingent on that item being resolved.
Okay.
I have a question on that. Is that 133rd or is it Lake Shore Drive?
For what?
It's 133rd is the address, that's what the county shows, GIS, survey, everything.
I thought the curve there by Smith Reading had changed over to Lake Shore Drive, but I could be wrong.
I go off what the county says. Yeah, as Mr. Deutmeyer indicates, I was out of the office all day, I got contacted from Ashley when I got back in at 4 saying, sorry, we haven't gotten them yet. I didn't know where staff had put the originals, I did have the receipts there, so I took a picture of that before I headed to county. And I came from county here, so when Lisa gets in the morning, I'll send a copy over to Ashley.
Bob, I think the official break is the viaduct, the abandoned viaduct.
Oh, okay.
That's what it looks like on here, but it does say Lakeshore Drive where it probably shouldn't, so probably a little misleading.
Okay.
Give me your name and address.
Yes, Nathan Viss, 12632 Wicker Avenue, Visslaw, here on behalf of Cedar Lake Storage. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments?
The only comment that we have is at the last meeting study session, Ms. Deschauer had asked if we could clarify in the proposed zoning commitment, a clarification as to where any U-Haul trucks, if applicable, would be located. I did go back and forth with Dave on a proposed amendment to indicate that attached to the zoning commitment is going to be a map. Ms. Deschauer, if you take a look at the property, there's 7 parking lots in front of the fence. And what I've indicated is the UH on the farthest two to the right, and those would be the limitations as to where any proposed U-Haul truck, if applicable, if that's what my clients would choose, would be located. So, yeah, Dave and I have gone back and forth as well as involved Ms. Abernathy since our last meeting, and we exchanged all the updates back and forth, so I believe that is all in good order, that zoning commitment as per your request.
A lot of those people that park there usually park pretty close to the fence to pick up the school kids. So,
I'm unaware, I guess my clients are here, but I'm unaware, is there a formal agreement with the school corp or anyone as to using this area as a bus drop-off location?
As far as I know, there's no formal agreement there.
Okay. So, I mean, that just came to my attention, Bob, that you mentioned that they use the area, the parking lot for a drop-off.
and we've got a bench out there where people, in the warmer weather sit there and wait for the bus.
Okay, so I think my clients weren't happy to work with the school corporation. Sounds like this is an area that they use, and Any areas that are gonna be used for parking, obviously, before they can be used, have to be striped. There's a whole top coat that needs to be applied to the area that's gonna be applied next spring, summer. There's gonna be street markings, so I'm not anticipating that there's gonna be a problem there, so.
Are they gonna have any trailers they're renting? And if so, where will they be parked?
For U-Haul,
Yes.
if those were to be, they would be located in the backside where you've approved.
Only the trucks will be parked up front.
Just one for marketing purposes, if applicable, if they want to, yeah,
Okay.
correct.
Don, do you have any comments?
We do not.
Nope.
We narrowed that down to the two businesses, correct? In the building. So the
Correct.
storage will have one office, and they have the ability to rent one office.
Correct, yes, I've submitted a proposed layout, Ms. Deshauer, as to what the interior looks like and what the zoning commitment limits is to two businesses to be operating on the premises, one of which would be the existing Cedar Lake storage facility. And if they can find another business, if any new business were to come in, they'd have to work with the building department to comply with all of the rules and regulations. And the addition is also that if my clients were to corroborate with a U-Haul or another moving company, that wouldn't be viewed as a third. That would be viewed under the auspices of the storage company.
Got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Wouldn't the U-Haul be considered a separate business from the storage?
Well, they're a collaborative business.
But it's
kind of-
a different usage.
It's an augment service. So I think, and that's why the concern that you had was that it wouldn't be multiple uses within that building, which it really isn't. And that's the unique nature of these U-Haul businesses is, in essence, they're maintenance-free. The locks or the keys are in a storage box for people to come in and out. So it's hassle-free. So in essence, all it is perhaps a couple of trucks or trailers that are located on the property that people can use as they're bringing items in and out.
Now, I understand that, but I don't want to, I want to be correct on the usage there, how many different uses that you're going to have. You're going to have storage, which is one. You're going to have U-Haul, which is two. Okay?
Right.
Then you're going to rent a third one out in the building.
Correct.
So you would have three uses.
Correct. That would be three different potential businesses that are operating on the property. Correct.
Right, okay. Just so that we know, so it's
Yeah.
in the records, okay.
Yep. No, and that's clearly outlined. Dave and I have gone back and forth along with Ashley's weighed in to clarify that concern that you have raised.
And that'll be in some form of a letter or report or...
It is, and that's directly in the recordable document that'll be recorded
Okay.
against the property. Yes, correct, Mr. Chairman.
Is that the zoning commitment that we see attached?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
All right, if you have a seat for a minute there, Mr. Viss, I'll call for remonstrators. Any remonstrators for or against this petition? And remonstrators for or against? Anybody online?
No hands are raised.
And no other correspondence?
No written correspondence.
All right, demonstration is closed. Come back up, please. Building Department, any comments?
I issued some comments to Nathan Friday afternoon. He did get them to me Friday afternoon. That was not provided in your packet because it came after the noon deadline. There are a couple minor outline comments in Dave's review that haven't been addressed. It looks like the striking out of some language in item number 2 and the underlining of item number 4. Otherwise, this seems to be in pretty good order, so any recommendation to the town council, we ask that you have it contingent on legal and staff review finalizing the zoning commitment document.
Be contingent on what, say again?
Legal and staff finalizing zoning commitment with the petitioner.
We got legal staff too. Okay. Commissioners have any comments?
I do.
Go ahead.
The shelter out by the road that Bob's referring to, is that on public property or is that on private property, Don? Can you see that on there?
It's close. I mean, is it inside or outside of the sidewalk? That's kind of your dividing line. Hold on a second.
Do a Google view.
The higher resolutions might show us.
I think that was an agreement with, when it was a lumber company with Brumbaugh, they just allowed that to be there.
I mean, it's close. Oh, alright. I can't tell if it's inside or outside of the sidewalk. I'm thinking it's in public right away, but I don't know 100% sure.
Okay.
It's darn close.
My other question is, this agreement that you, Mr. Roshan, have drafted up and corresponded on, how many U-Haul vehicles are gonna be on the property at one time? Is there a maximum?
There wasn't a maximum discussed.
So the trailers that will be on the property inside the fence will be put in spaces, or they can be anywhere and everywhere?
No, so that dates back to previous approvals that this body.
But that was for storage of private stuff.
Correct.
U-Haul is different again.
So I would coin it to be that they've coined a maximum amount of items that can be stored in the backside of the property. So if there's going to be a U-Haul trailer or truck, that would fit one of the allowed maximum spaces that's on the backside of the property.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think that was, Mr. Wilson, that's a good question. And I believe there was good clarity that was brought the last go around to say you can't use every nook and cranny of this property to store items, and that's not my client's intention.
Okay. Hey, one more question. The outside of this office building, there's two businesses going to be in that building?
Potentially. The
Potentially.
storage
So-
facility has one office,
Right.
and they want the ability to rent another office.
Okay, so what are the plans for the outside of that building? We're gonna have two 32-square-foot business signs on the roof,
We did talk about.
all lit up?
We did talk about a sign previously. That was my question last meeting.
Yeah, correct. So the way that your current ordinance would interpret this would be even if there was two businesses inside, they still would be capped at the maximum that's allowed for the one.
So it'd be one
business
sign?
space. Correct, yeah, they'd have to share the spacing of the sign.
Okay, all right. I got nothing else.
Yep.
That made me think of a question with what you just said. Is a U-Haul vehicle that's there for promoting the business, is it inside the fence or outside the fence?
And that's the question that Ms. Deshauer asked, is that, and that's what we've worked into the remodification zoning commitment, that my clients would be able to store it outside one vehicle.
Outside the fence?
Outside the fence,
Yeah.
in one of the
I
far
thought,
direct
Jerry, you
locations.
said inside the fence, but
Well, I was talking about U-Haul trademarked vehicles, how many would be on the property?
okay.
In totality.
You were referring to the one that's there for promotional.
Right,
Okay.
right. I know U-Haul, as they're shipping things around, I mean, we could drive by there on a Sunday morning and there could be 50 trailers lined up next to the building because they're on their way to Missouri or Florida or
All
wherever.
right, I misunderstood.
Any other questions?
I guess my final question is the zoning commitment that we have in front of us has lots of red marks on it, which I assume isn't anything crazy, but is this to a point now where,
That's what I actually mentioned before, that would be the contingency.
Contingent
So along
on,
with
yeah,
the checkoff and the legal notice thing, it would be legal and staff review of this zoning commitment. That was the one thing until Ashley added it. I know Nate and Dave have talked. I am obviously not Dave. I didn't talk to Dave about this particular item today, so I don't know where it's at in the sort of round back and forth editing process. But what I see in what's at least in the packet, the changes don't appear to be overly substantive, and I don't think they're overly objectionable to either party.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If none, this will be, board, this is,
Another recommendation to
To
town
town
council.
council.
to the town council, okay. We, a motion to send a favorable or unfavorable to town council. If it's a favorable, motion, it should be contingent upon the staff and legal verification. And there should be only two businesses and the building, the business building, or the building on the property.
I'll make a motion to make a favorable recommendation to the town council to rezone from M1 to B2, contingent on proof that the legal notices are in order, contingent also on legal and staff review, and that no more than 2 businesses can operate at this facility.
Motion by Mr. Parker, did you second it, Bob?
Yes.
Seconded by Mr. Carnahan. Any questions on the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Hunley?
Yes.
Ms. Sethauer?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkening?
Yes.
Mr. Capora?
Yes, motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good. You got another one?
I'm unclear, so I will hang around up front for this one.
Number 3, consider removal of Price Point from the agenda. I might make a comment here that at the BZA the other night, they withdrew their petition to the BZA for their variances and whatnot that they were looking for, so that tells me that they probably don't want to go forward with this. Am I correct, Mr. Viss?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. It's my understanding there's been conversation with regards to a structure that's on this property, use of it. There's been some concerns raised in public comment as to drainage, things of that nature. I haven't received anything on behalf of my client from the town or town staff with any citations of any form. I've been verbally told that there have been some floating around. But from what I understand, we've received verbal instruction that you want some items removed. My client is working with a neighbor that built a carport out there to get it removed. He's currently in the hospital, and due to the weather, we haven't been able to remove it. So with all kind of the hoopla that's been raised, but nothing formally in writing to me or my client, it makes sense that we formally withdraw this so that we're not spending a lot of time and effort on it. And I guess what I would request is that if there are citations or there is written request to remove things, that be cited so that I can clearly enunciate to my client what the expectation of the town is. And once that's cleared up, I'm happy to come back before you and as well as the BCA. So with that in mind, I would formally withdraw it.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Don, this property would be challenging anyway as far as water goes, wouldn't it? It lays between the two hills.
Well, to an extent, but it does have pretty decent grade on it to
Okay.
beat this challenge.
Okay.
Are there challenges on the property? Yes.
So all right, so it's not impossible.
No, not at all.
Okay. Are there any citations, official written citations by anyone from the town?
Official written citations was sent out in the mail today to your clients. I can email you a copy of that tomorrow.
So, yeah,
Okay. Now we know.
It was, a draft was worked on when I got back into the office between Dave and I, so it just went out today in the mail, and I'll get a copy to you tomorrow.
Nope, and I appreciate that. I know you've been out, Ashley, so. Yeah. Like I said, I think getting it formally in writing so we're all on the same page, get it rectified, happy to work with the town, so.
Do we need a motion to withdraw that, or?
No, if he is requesting and has asked to withdraw, or is just announcing his withdrawal, then there's no vote necessary.
Okay,
Can I ask a question?
sure.
To close that circle, Ashley, could you email that to us as well?
Yes,
Thank you.
you are on my list of people to send it to as well.
Great, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
thank you. Number 4, Beacon Point East Unit 2, conversion of performance letter of credit to maintenance letter of credit.
So, John, do you want it, or do you want me to?
I'll take it. Yeah, we issued a letter on December 20th, recommending rotation and acceptance of this phase, rotating it into a maintenance letter of credit for a period of 3 years. If you do vote on that, the amount for this phase of that development would be $72,854.19.
Mr. President, I have a question.
Yes.
Don, this irrevocable standby letter of credit, it's also listing Beacon East on here. That's not for Beacon East also, is it?
No, this is Beacon East. Beacon East Unit 2. What are you looking at?
Well, yeah, that's what it says Beacon Point of Cedar Lake LLC is the applicant, but then it says subdivision is an issue, Beacon East. So the project over there, the drainage project over there, that's not for this.
That is in Unit 1. So
That's
that is
that's
actually,
considered Unit 1, okay.
yeah, so
All right.
that's actually coming up next.
Yeah, this is your.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, I'll need a motion to, if there's no other questions, I'll need a motion to, change this letter, performance letter to, letter credit. Man, I wish I could talk tonight. To maintenance letter of credit, and the amount is $7,000.
Yeah.
$72,854.19, and I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
What they said.
We got you covered.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Carnahan, second by Mr. Wilkening. Roll call, please.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Hunley?
Yes.
Ms. Deshauer?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkeny?
Yes.
Mr. Capora?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Number 5, Beacon Point East Unit 1 Extension of Performance Letter of Credit. I would assume they want to extend this because they're still working on the drainage and what have you.
Yeah, among some other things in that phase as well.
So the extension would be for a year?
They're requesting an extension to July 30th, and it's staying in the same amount of $341,736.80.
Okay, any questions? If none, I'll need a motion to extend this to July 30th, 2024.
Make a motion, we extend it to July 30th, 2024.
I'll second. Motion by Mr. Wilkening, seconded by Mr. Becker. What was that dollar amount again?
$341,736.80.
Okay, for that amount. Roll call, please.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Hunley?
Yes.
Ms. Deshauer?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkeny?
Yes.
Mr. Capora?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Number 6, Cedar View Extension of Performance Letter of Credit.
They are requesting a full year extension to extend this to February 15th, 2025. It is in the amount of $14,047.
Why do they need an extension?
That is the, what is often referred to as the Domino's project. And
Okay.
the developer has told me that he's not going to be doing the sidewalk and public improvements until he's at the end of construction, so they're needing an extension.
Okay, and that was to what date?
February 15th of '25.
He's still proceeding as planned though with that?
Mm-hmm.
14,000, how much, I'm sorry?
$14,047.
Thank you.
Don, is that enough?
Yeah, I mean, it's just related to public improvements, so it'd be the sidewalk frontage and then some changes to the entrance apron.
It's enough money though.
That's it, yeah.
Okay.
No further discussion, need a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the extension of the performance letter of credit in the amount of $14,047 to February 15, 2025.
Motion by Ms. Deshauer. I'll second. Second by Mr. Becker. Roll call, please.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Hunley?
Yes.
Ms. Deshauer?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkeny?
Yes.
Mr. Capora?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Number 7, Summer Wind Unit 1 Letter of Credit.
So this one is on the agenda because the commission would either need to set a full date tonight or decide to hold a special public meeting on the 7th to set a full date at that time. I sent out a few emails to the developer reminding them that we need an extension if they wanted to extend so much as what they did to units 1 and 2, or 2 and 3, sorry. I've received no communication back. My last email to them was to advise them that if we don't get anything, you can likely set a full date. I still have nothing.
And when was this sent to them? How many days?
The last one was earlier this week. The last one was a few weeks ago. The one part of
A
that.
few weeks ago.
When's the
Yeah.
expiration again?
February 15th.
Well, I don't, they're not responding to us, they haven't for a while, yes, so I would say, set a full date.
I concur.
I concur as well. What do we need for the full date?
I think we usually would do 7 to 10 days.
Let's say 10 to be safe.
58, the 5th of February.
Sounds fair to me.
That's a lot. I don't think we do that much normally.
What's that?
I don't think we give them that, I don't really think we have that long of a time period, like 7 to 10 business days. I think we normally are 4 to 5 business days before, but,
Well, 3 would be on the 12th, which is a Monday, so.
well, I would say give them to the 7th, that gives us a full week.
7th?
Yeah, that should be plenty of time to pull on it.
What bank's got it, do you know?
People.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's not bad.
So if they get a notice of this full date and they decide to want an extension, what happens then?
Similar to what happened last year when we set full dates, they got us letters in right at the deadline. They went on the town council's agenda first for approval of extension, and then we ratified it at the plan commission at our next public meeting.
I mean, would a contingent approval be in order, contingency to extend it, or
Yes, I mean,
then you can not have to go to council?
but do you wanna make life easier for them? I mean, they haven't,
No.
they haven't done a ton to make life easier for us.
No, I mean, they have shown some progress. We did get them a punch list here in the next week, so I hope he's got some fire under his butt, but can't get a hold of him, we can't get a hold of him.
Well, I'd say just set the full date and that ought to fire them up and.
Okay.
What's the amount, Ashley?
I'm looking through previous correspondence right now, give me just a moment, and I'll try and find that number for you.
I mean, it's considerable, correct?
This is the larger of them, because it includes the basin and everything, the first phase, so yeah.
What date do you like, Don?
The 7th.
I said February 7th, to give us a week. 8 days. See, we're really nice between.
You good with the 7th, Ryan?
That's fine.
Wait.
Do we need the amount?
Please,
I found it.
please.
$244,187.85.
244,187.85?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm fine with setting the full date. I'm not itching to pull on this, and you're probably not either, are you, Don?
No.
Because this is a lot of work.
Well, I mean, 2 and 3 were already extended, so it'd be a little weird if we pulled on one phase and had 2 that were current.
We'll get their attention.
So no, I don't wanna pull on it, because then we have to finish the improvements. Never ideal.
Who holds the other two, the same bank?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're gonna get notification and
Yeah.
light something on fire, so.
He hasn't been the best communicator, so, yes.
Well, the bank will though.
Yeah.
It's definitely hit or miss.
Yeah.
Who will you contact? Will you contact him and People's Bank?
If that's the direction, no, typically I just contact the developer, but if the direction of the plan commission is that I include the bank representative for their letters of credit, I can absolutely include them in my email tomorrow that we've had a full date.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay, no further questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion that the February 7th of 2024 be the full date for the Summer Winds letter of credit in the amount of $244,187.85.
$0.45 then?
And then a letter be sent to the developer and the bank?
Letter be sent by staff to the bank and the developer.
Motion made by Mr. Wilkeny. Second. Second by Mr. Becker. Roll call, please.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Hunley?
Yes.
Ms. Stetshauer?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkeny?
Yes.
Mr. Capura?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Okay, now we have Plan Commission discussion amending zone ordinance 1402 to add clarifying language. What that amendment is it states, I think everybody got a blurb from Ashley on this. But basically what it states is that no pole barn shall be used for a primary residence, and no pole barn can be installed unless it's over
1,001 square feet.
feet. And what happened here is at the BZA, we had a request for variance for someone to put up a barn dominium, which is basically a pole barn that they live in. And the ordinance here is kind of vague, so we're looking for some new language to put in there to clarify.
What was that square footage? I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
It's 1,001 square feet, provided it is an accessory structure and that you can meet all the other criteria of the accessory structure portion of the zoning ordinance. And the only areas that allow for that amount of accessory structure size by right without a variance is anything that is 1.01 acres or greater.
Okay. You get it now.
So right now it says metal and/or post and beam construction.
Right.
So I mean, there was a BZA requirement for this. The building, I'm assuming the building department explained what metal and/or post and beam means?
We did, and we also told them that from the building inspector's research, any residential structure has to be built to residential code in Indiana. We can't say you can build it not to residential building code. Any post frame building, any building built with posts does not meet that code. Code requires a full foundation, whether it's slab, basement, but it requires that full foundation.
So what we have in the language presently is pretty clear too.
Here, can I read it real quick?
Yeah.
Metal and/or post buildings. Metal and post building types of construction shall not be permitted in this residential zoning district as a primary or accessory use. Any accessory building greater than 1,001 square feet in size shall be exempt from this provision, providing it conforms with all other provisions required in Chapter 11, Section A.
So done. Yeah.
Sorry, their argument was that just by having metal siding doesn't make it a metal building.
It says metal and/or.
That was the conversation.
So they would, I mean, a layman didn't understand that?
It was an attorney.
Oh, and he's gone.
That's probably worse.
Okay, all right. Mr. Deutmeyer, do we need to put, linear footing, linear concrete footing? I mean, this,
Well,
What's proposed to be added?
an accessory building over 740-ish square feet requires a 36-inch footing anyway. The maximum accessory building that you can build is roughly 24 by 30 with a monolithic concrete slab. If it's in excess of that, it has to have a full footing, just like a home structure would have.
Well, their comment at this, what they told us at the BZA was that they were going to put in a footing all the way around to erect this pole barn. And the posts were going to sit on the footing, and the posts go in the ground 4 foot. And I said, well, you got 48 inches of post in the ground on top of 42 inches of footing. So you're in the ground almost 8 foot doing that. But that's what they told us, to get to your point. Now, definition...
A monolithic is considered a footing, but it's not enough for
Right.
that type.
Right, but I don't think the argument there is the footing or the siding or what have you. The argument there is that it's a pole barn.
Yeah, I would
Now,
agree with that.
they call it a barn dominium. Well, you put spats on a pig, it's still a pig. You know, so I mean, you call it a barn dominium, it's still a pole barn.
but they were gonna use it as a residential structure.
Yes, they were gonna use, The front end as residential, two-story, all their bedrooms upstairs, downstairs was a living, and then the garage and back. And I think that garage is over 1,000 square feet too.
There was discrepancies in the calculations. I calculated 5 ways to sideways, and my numbers did not add up to their numbers, and even the numbers that were provided on their thing didn't equal the total square footage. It was a 56 by 40 square foot building, and they were only saying that the total square footage was like...
Well, we're not here to argue what happened at the
So,
BCA, but we're
yeah.
here to discuss this pole barn. All right, now, I pulled up the definition of a pole barn. Well, it says metal and or post buildings. Metal and post buildings, types of construction shall not be permitted in, residence districts in the, wait a minute, let me find out what I'm talking about. Oh, that's what you sent me. Wrong paper. Trust me, folks, we'll get through this tonight. Maybe a little long, but we'll get through it.
Well, the word barn dominium came because it's a barn converted into a home.
Well,
So
it's
call it, like you said, you can call it whatever you want, but at the end of the day,
a pole barn,
pole barn,
right?
great.
There's
I
no,
think the builders came up with steel building manufacturer, pole barn manufacturers came up with a name, so the millenniums would buy it. Plain and simple.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
so to
That's
stick, to
my
stick
own
build this
theory.
building and to cover it in metal, there's no problem with that.
That was,
Oh, there is a problem with that, you can't have, well,
You can have metal siding,
you can have metal siding on a pole barn,
you can have metal
if
siding
you
on a
have
home.
1 acre or more. Yes, and they do make types of metal siding
What
that.
happened to aluminum siding?
Yeah, tin siding.
Isn't this just like a verbiage thing that legal should just clean up? I mean,
Well, I guess
And that's-
you're sure you're probably trying to understand what we're looking for.
Yeah, I'm a visual learner, and not being able to see it.
here, let me read definition of a pole barn. Pole barns can also be referred to as pole buildings, pole sheds, and pole post barns. The definition of a pole barn is a farm building with no foundation and with sides consisting of corrugated metal or aluminum panels supported by poles in it, set in the ground, typically at 8-foot intervals. According to the Google's Oxford Dictionary, in short, that covers your basic pole barn description. You can also, I mean, there's basically 5 ways you can clad a pole barn. You can clad it in stucco, you can put up brick, you can use wood, you got vinyl siding, and usually what they put up is 4x8 corrugated sheets of metal around 26 or 28 gauge, which is a thin metal. It's about the thickness of your gutters. Gutters, I think, are like 28 gauge that they're made out of.
But this is gonna have a foundation, right?
I don't care about
Yeah.
the foundation. It's a pole barn, that's what we're talking about, okay?
Well, you could argue, and I'm not trying to, but if it is not built with posts with an 8-foot span between the posts and just putting if it's framed, like 2x6s.
If it's framed, it's fine, it's not a pole barn.
It's not a pole barn
It's
anymore,
a stick
yeah.
built.
Right.
All right, but then you get to what they're gonna clad it with, they can't clad it with metal, according to our ordinance.
that's where the clarification is coming in, because his argument was just because you're using metal siding, it doesn't make it a metal building. We don't have anything that clarifies what makes it a metal building. Is it just metal and post beams? Is it, we can allow metal siding? If so, what type of metal siding is allowable?
A steel building is a metal structure fabricated with steel for the internal support and for exterior cladding as opposed to steel frame buildings which generally use other materials for floors, walls, and extended envelope. Steel buildings are also used for a variety of purposes, including storage, work, space, living accommodations, so on and so forth. So what they're saying is that if you frame it in like aluminum studs and clad it with metal, it's a steel building. If you stick frame it and clad it with metal, it's a steel building. The way I see it. The way I see it,
And I see the way you're seeing it. And I think what we're getting down to now is if they're gonna use corrugated siding on a structure like that, or if they're going to use some other type of sheeting and siding for this building. I've seen a lot of people build wood frame houses that look like barns. And I've seen people build metal frame houses that look like houses. There's one down the street from me, I watched them build it. I couldn't believe they did what they did, but they did. So, it had to be more expensive in my view to do that, but that's how they wanted it, and, but it looks like a house, it doesn't look like a barn, but it is all metal.
Over the years, I've been a big fan of people coming in here asking for accessory buildings. Accessory building, not a home.
Correct.
I always ask, what are you gonna cover it with? Metal. I said, you're not gonna cover it with sheeting and make it match the house. No. Again, that's an accessory building. I think I'm going where you're at.
Well, the corrugated siding
But
is like pole barn siding. It might make, and I'm not up to speed on this, but they might make residential use siding that is made out of some kind of metal that we're seeing in town already. I don't know. I know that there's some,
there's no rule against putting metal on the outside of your house, is there?
That's, again, that's where we're getting into why we need to
Resi-
clarify.
Residential.
That's why we're
Yeah.
getting into needing that
Well,
clarifying
I think-
language.
I think
Is because
you-
if we allow
you're,
metal siding, what type?
you're talking about, you're talking about, well, you can put it on your roof.
Right.
So, you're talking about visual. Would a picture of...
No, what I'm talking
What
about
a
is
picture-
the
what-
actual words in the code, 'cause I am so lost, just hearing these different definitions going back and forth, like, I think Don is too.
Me too.
I guess that's my point, we can sit here all night and talk
Yeah.
about buildings.
Yeah.
Can we just provide legal with what they need to look at what we have and clean it up for us?
Part of the reason, because Dave and I talked about this, he wanted this discussion to occur, was to see if there was any input from the plan commission or even BZA on see what it is that they would like to see before we can begin drafting an amendment to it and presenting that to the commissioners so that we can then have further dialogue on, yes, that's what we like, no, that's not what we don't like, we need to go back to the drafting board.
It's residential. It should be built like a residential home. Anything else is not residential. We're talking about the foundations, we're talking about...
The framing.
The framing.
Yeah,
We're talking about this thing in totality. I don't wanna get stuck on the metal. We've had plenty of metal buildings here.
Sure, and I've seen people frame them in,
Mm-hmm.
just like a house,
Yeah.
with 2x6s on 2-foot centers or 2x4s on 16-inch centers, and put corrugated siding on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also seen people just put the 2x4 slats in between the posts and screw the siding to that.
I understand.
And I've seen metal siding, like aluminum, on houses too.
Yeah, there's been 10 siding, actually, there's a house on this street that is complete, it's called the Lestron House, and it's completely made out of metal, and it's been there since World War II.
That's covered in porcelain.
It's covered in porcelain.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be there for another 100 years.
And the inside of the walls are metal.
Inside,
It's metal, it's
inside
metal.
out, it's completely
Yeah.
made out of metal, and it's completely bolted and screwed together. So,
I guess...
I think you need a definition of what a pole barn is and what a metal building is, to start with. As far as cladding with metal, I think you need to define, like, metal cladding on a house to be similar to the profile of polyvinyl siding, similar to that profile, with 6-inch exposure or 8-inch exposure.
and that may be what you're looking for, the polyvinyl or some like
Yeah.
material like that,
Yeah.
but in 2 years, they might come up with some sort of metal siding that becomes the rave for everybody, and then you're gonna have people coming in here asking for variances for this.
I'm not sure we can tell people exactly what style, if anything, to put on the outside of the building, can we?
I don't know if anybody uses aluminum siding anymore, I haven't seen that in years, but I don't know what the trends are gonna be going forward. Sometimes you see things that you thought you'd never see.
I'm talking about
Like a barndominium.
I'm talking about dictating architecture, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't know if you can do that. I mean, if they wanna build a house that looks like a barn, they can build a house that looks like a barn. I don't think we have any control over that, do we, Ashley?
And Ryan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, or I can reach out to Dave and get additional clarification, but I believe there are the capabilities of the commissioner, the plan commission, in the zoning ordinance to build in architectural standards that's required. I think they typically fall in overlay districts. I don't know if they can fall outside of overlay districts.
That's a
I mean, you
bigger
can do it with a
discussion.
PUD.
Yeah, that's a bigger discussion. If
Yeah.
you're gonna institute something like agricultural control over the entire town, that's a much
I think
more.
that's a fine line, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I
The
said I
state-
have to
the-
check that with
But the
people.
state has been depreciating our abilities to do that.
I don't think there's anything that precludes you from doing it, and I think we've talked about this in the past about doing an overlay type district for that. But it's a slippery slope to start governing architectural controls. I mean, a lot of HOAs have that built into their covenants.
And
This is a 6-acre parcel that is not in a platted subdivision, though, correct?
no, they're in the process of making it a one-lot subdivision.
But it's still a 6-acre parcel, right?
6.18 acres, I believe.
And it's
Yeah,
residential.
Mhm.
So,
It's zoned R2.
I don't have a clue.
What are your thoughts, Don? Quick and simple to clean this up.
I mean, I'm kind of hearing about this now. I mean, I would caution you about heavy defining certain things. I think it behooves you and it gives you more control if some of those items are left ambiguous. You can interpret them on a case-by-case basis.
How about no corrugated siding, no corrugated metal siding on a residential structure?
Yeah, we have something similar to that. Like, I think there's stuff in there about vinyl siding and whatnot in some of the residential. I think it's actually mentioned. But
People are doing metal roofs all over the place.
maybe,
now.
I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but that's what my brain's telling me.
Right. You can have a
What
metal roof.
about, what about a hidden
I
fastening
know
clause?
it's, most of our PUDs that have come in front of us, they
Because
build it
then-
in there as
because then
their
the roots
architectural
have those
standards
screws.
or part of their development standards, that it can only be vinyl hardy board, have to mount masonry, or brick. There's a couple of others that they typically build into them, but those are in our PUD district that come in front of you, and that's what we negotiate through that. I would also be hesitant about doing a full town architectural standard. It makes it more difficult in the permitting process.
I mean, yeah, we pretty much require a covenant review for any residential subdivision, not even including PUDs. And a lot of them have those built-in controls already, so.
I get it.
That's what you're.
So this property's being used now, or what? Are there violations, you're smiling, there are violations on the property, aren't there?
Yes.
It
So-
receives a favorable recommendation toward the use of farm animals that are already inhabiting the land.
Why are we talking about this? Thank you.
For the ordinance update, for an ordinance
What,
update.
the stuff's not even cleaned up, the property's not even cleaned.
Hang on though, hang on, give me a sec. So, there's violations on the property now?
It received a favorable recommendation to the town council.
For the animals?
For the animals.
What else is there that shouldn't be there?
Storage box.
Okay,
That
then
they're
there's
also
been,
requesting a developmental variance for it.
for a storage box.
For use
So-
before they build the house, correct. Steel storage.
But we're not here to talk about that. I'm not gonna pursue any more conversation about what's at the BCA. We're here to try to define,
I just wanna give Ryan some direction if he's gonna work on the ordinance. If he's not, and you wanna continue this to have some more dialogue later, I'm certainly good with that too.
I think there has to be a discussion about the definition of a pole barn and just residential structure. I don't think you want to marry them together, but perhaps you want to define them further. But I would leave it at that. I wouldn't start throwing in steel building definitions and really getting nitty-gritty like that, because I think that actually limits you potentially in the future of being able to control some of this stuff. I prefer to have ordinances at least some ambiguity in them, so you can interpret them and interpret things on a case-by-case basis, but that's my opinion.
I did briefly discuss it with some of the people in the building department, and it sounded more like their comments and suggestions were restricted to post frames. and define post frames, because if somebody wants to come in and build it with steel posts or steel trusses, stuff like that, build their framing from steel beams instead of doing
I would
wood beams.
consider a post frame building suitable for residential dwelling. And that's probably covered in the ordinance already, I would think.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I mean, I think
It is.
there's a lot of discussion, as Don just alluded to, on a lot of things that aren't necessarily here. I would think the starting point is, we need to identify specifically what the definitions that may be in need of change are, so this discussion can kind of evolve, because, you know, there's a lot of things that have been kicked around, and if we're limiting it to, you know, sort of the definition of residential dwelling and/or a pole barn, then, you know, you can attack those. The only thing that sort of Don alluded to is, number one, ambiguity isn't necessarily a terrible thing here. Number two, you gotta be careful sometimes in trying to specifically legislate out an exception because one came out, because there's 20 more that nobody's even thought of that's gonna eventually end up here.
Absolutely, and if I wanted to build a house that was non-traditional, and I was spending my money, and I bought the property to do it, I bought a 6-acre parcel, so I didn't have to conform to subdivision control guidelines and covenants and restrictions, I would want to build the house that I want to build, providing that it met state code. So, these kind of things, I mean, we had one come in on the lake down here, that one with the really big expensive house. I don't know if it's aesthetically pleasing, some might say it is, some might say it isn't, but it's got like a flat roof design, and it doesn't look like the other houses next to it. And we call that non-traditional. So, but it has a lot, I mean, it could be defined and interpreted a whole lot of different ways. I don't know, I mean, you can't live in a pole barn, that's probably already in the ordinance. No corrugated siding on a residential structure, or, I mean, those are simple things if they're not in there already.
Yeah, those are easy fixes too, right? And then you're not legislating specifically out of the exception. It's just what we all know is true, right? You can't live in a pole barn. You're not gonna live in some, you know, structure that has tin siding and no insulation, and you're gonna be freezing your hiney off.
Are you confused by this? Because I am. I'm
Yeah.
confused by what they're
It's gone
requesting.
a lot of different directions.
Yeah.
It's very simple. You need a definition of what a pole barn is and what a metal building is. Start there. Once you get that,
Well, I
you
think
can
they
have
actually said it, though.
conversation.
It's a post-frame building that is not suitable in our zoning ordinance already for a residential dwelling.
There you go. That should shut it down right there. If you need some more language.
And if that's not what it
that,
says, then
we can
that
change
language
that.
needs to be added.
Yeah.
Can you look into that? And if that language isn't in there, maybe just tweak it.
Okay.
Moving on.
Okay, move on. What we need is a postmaster. Update items, Beacon Point, Unit 1A, maintenance letter, didn't we just do that stuff? or-
Yeah, well, these are different ones. This is Beacon Central. I'll take them both at the same time. They've met all of their punch list requirements, so they are being allowed to basically expire. We will put a letter to the file stating that, and those two will be done.
Okay. Public comment?
If anyone online wants to speak, please raise your hand.
Okay.
Angie, Mike Lychak, 12806 Lee Court. I had a question about the Price Point Builder removal tonight. First of all, the one thing that I had a question about is Mr. Oliphant had said, you had said that the grading was fine, or could you?
No, I said that, Jerry asked me a question if the grading would preclude any building. I said no.
Okay. So on January 4th, I came to the Stormwater Board and spoke with you and asked for assistance, and really knowing what to do for my property, because I'm an adjacent property owner. And, you said that you would come out next week, which
Yeah, we haven't made it out there because of the weather.
you haven't made it out there yet.
No.
Which is expected, because I was gonna say, after you told me that it snowed.
Yeah, it
So I was
snowed
just
and
wondering
it-
how you're basing your decision on the grading when there was
That's
a
just our
topography.
office view. It has plenty of grade to make something work.
Okay,
Whatever that something is a different question.
okay.
I'm just saying that it's not one of these sites where they're digging in a hole and there's no way they can fix it. There is ways that we can fix it.
Okay,
So, but that's gonna be dependent on what they submit, so that was just a high-level comment.
okay, thank
So,
you, because I
yeah.
felt a little bit like I was being dismissed
No,
with some of the other issues that I had, because, okay, then I guess we'll just revisit all this stuff when they refile again?
Yeah, and we're handling your needs on Stormboard's end, so.
Yeah, okay.
That's separate right now.
All right, and then, I just wanted to make sure, because we didn't, the topography, I wanted to talk about that, because, all that was really mentioned tonight was a carport? Because it kind of goes with the Porter situation, that there's a steel storage container on that building too, and it's been there. Oh, I know what I
Did
wanted
that
to
get
ask.
looked into?
It's in
Was that permitted?
the building? No.
Okay. The
There's-
corrugated storage truck trailer thing, that wasn't permitted?
Is that included in the citation?
Yes.
Does that answer your question? It sounds like it wasn't just the carport, there's more that's in the citation.
No, I was wondering around, well, there's carport, there's a shed, there's the steel cart, and then it was very odd because I think this is maybe the sixth town meeting I've come to talk about this, but, recently, the road there was a question about the road, that now there's a, no trespassing sign put on the road, and then there's also something that says closed when you go into his property, so I was just wondering, does that mean he's not supposed to be using the road?
It's not a road, it's a private drive. That's not a platted right of way, that's not a platted road.
That's not a private drive.
It's a
Private
private
drive.
drive on his own property to his house. It's not a road. You're talking the thing off of Klein with the apron?
Yeah, there's no home on that property.
It's a
There used to
private
be
lot.
homes on it. History lesson.
Yeah, but,
No, but
We
same,
demoed them all,
I remember those properties.
yeah.
same person who owns that property owns that house where the driveway goes through, so he's permitted to drive across his property.
Hey,
But it is not a road.
Here's the problem. He's been using the property for a construction, storage.
if anyone looks
site.
on the GIS, it's at almost 20 years that he's been using it this way.
And that is not a permitted use in an R1 residential district. He can't operate a construction business
With semis.
on that property. Well, that's what he's been doing.
According to the tax property card, he's only been the owner for 2 years.
That's where we get back to the history lesson. The town demoed a bunch of houses over there for this same developer, okay? Potential developer, years ago. I was a part of the unsafe building board at that time. The town should have foreclosed on that property for what was owed for the demolition at that time. Somehow or another, that did not happen. Fast forward 15 years or something, the same guy that made the mess winds up owning the property again after we cleaned it up for him at taxpayers' expense, and he has been using it for a construction storage site.
I guess my confusion comes in if he wasn't the owner on record, how would he be able to use it? That's my confusion.
He was the owner.
He was the owner, then he wasn't the owner. It was bank-owned or something. It changed ownership through some sort of
It's being
legal.
bank managed, but
And he wound up with it again, but when it was vacant, because he lives there, he was still using it, correct?
Yes, and I'm very frustrated because all this is in writing, and you guys should have had it a long time ago. And I guess the minutes that were approved from the meetings that I have attended I think that they were approved this evening, and I would like to know if my written objections are included in that, because I was told by the attorney that all my information would be in there.
That's BCA minutes.
No, it was supposed to be in here too, because Mr. Hunley had asked if they could have a copy of all that
Did I
information.
give you all those pictures and all that documentation that she presented?
I know I got her letter provided that was directed to the Board of Zoning Appeals. And that was provided to them at both their December and January meetings, and it's gonna be a part of their December meeting minutes, as part of public record.
So it is part of the public record then?
Correct.
I believe that I was also told that it would be, you guys would have it as well, because I'd mentioned it,
Well,
and I read some of that stuff at a previous,
John Kapora had it, Jim Hunley had it, I had it. The
Attorney
new-
had it.
The new plan commissioners probably don't have it yet, but if this comes forward again and it's not corrected, everybody's gonna have it.
yeah, because I spent like $45 at the library making copies for all you guys, and you said, I don't need it, it'll be in our notes.
I'm pretty sure this isn't going away as far as the use part of
Okay.
it goes.
All right, I'm trying to make what I want to say appropriate, but the one question I have, I guess, for the town, Ashley, is, no, yeah, it was several years ago, but I had seen, I looked for the Lake County court records, and I see that the town of Cedar Lake has actually issued local ordinance violations on this person in the past for unauthorized accumulation. And I was just wondering, when does it end?
I have no, if it's a code enforcement, I have no record of that one on building department end.
Okay, so when you say a citation, what do you mean? Do you mean going through the police department into the courts, or do you mean something going through your office? I'm trying to figure that out.
Well, that'd be done by the police department. Code enforcement officer would go out there and either leave a citation or mail it to them. And if they didn't pay it, it would end up in the Lake Superior Court and on our bi-monthly court call.
Okay, I think it was like December 6th, I was told that that would be done. Was that done yet?
I don't have control over the code enforcement officer, she does not report to me, she reports to the chief of police.
Okay, then when you said that there was some things that you were gonna get for Mr. Viss tomorrow as far as a list of the violations, of a citation, what did that mean?
That's a zoning ordinance violation.
That's the carport, the shed, and the pile of
The
garbage
next
that's over there, and,
Storage box?
the storage box is in that too, or it should be.
So everything.
And what about the road?
Well, the road is not a road, it is an old driveway to the houses that were there before,
Right.
and that is currently his access to the property. Why he needs to access it.
He's
unless-
still going through to his house,
I understand that, and that.
over gas lines
I don't-
and under,
I don't
think we can restrict
that part, I don't know how we stop,
okay, I understand.
but.
It's just frustrating, because I feel like,
And I get it. There's a entrance to your subdivision with a nice little cul-de-sac that he could enter in like everybody else does in the neighborhood, but because he has taken advantage of something and wound up with this property again, you can't keep him from accessing his property.
could we keep them from accessing it with semis and heavy equipment?
Well, there shouldn't be no semis and heavy equipment over there, and I touched
They
on
go
that
through
earlier, talking about the residential zoning district, that type of activity is not allowed. And.
So in the ordinance with the photo I showed with the semis, was that included in the citation?
The storage boxes?
Well, it wouldn't be because they weren't there. The semis weren't there when anybody when I went there, the semis weren't there.
Okay, it was just a storage, it was a
It was-
trailer.
It
I
was
wasn't,
yes.
but the heavy equipment, they still come through there.
How often is it there?
Well, that was there for 2 seasons, that's gone, but I'm talking about the traffic. As long as he's using that driveway, there's going to be his business, things coming through it.
Well,
Are they parked there for a time where you'd be able to, someone has to see it from the town to go out and give a citation for it?
Yeah, but even coming to this meeting, it took, what, 6 weeks, and before did code enforcement even go out there yet?
Somebody went out there.
So if I call, it's just gonna get the runaround, they're not gonna go out there, sorry. They eventually will.
But you told me when I asked, there's written citations.
For the zoning violations, correct. I can only make, violations based off of zoning or subdivision. That's when I'm sending out violation letters, they're based off of violations, either the subdivision control ordinance or the zoning ordinance.
She's right about that, because she's responsible for the building code zoning part of things, and the police department is responsible for the code enforcement.
Okay, is there any way that I can get information on that, like a copy, or where I can look to find it? Would it be in the court records, sir?
If there were like tickets for unauthorized accumulation and things like that, yeah, those would all be filed with the Lake Superior Courts.
Is that gonna happen, or no?
If you want to see if any code enforcement tickets have been written, you would need to file a public records request. And
Okay, I did
clerk
do a public records request on this property, there was nothing. But do it again?
If you have to be specific in what it is that you're looking for, because if you don't ask for it, then the clerk treasurer doesn't know to provide it.
Will it go through the Lake County Court?
It all depends if it's a town ordinance or state statute.
No
And if
problem.
they just issued it in December, it'll be on the docket, probably won't be in the docket till February.
February, March.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they just issued it yesterday, right?
Yeah, but at the time it goes through the court, gets on the court docket.
Is there any way I could get a list of it? That's all I need to know. Just go to the town and
Well,
say,
until there's a decision in a court,
yeah.
there probably won't be any record of it, am I?
I mean, if there's a citation written, that would exist.
Yeah, if the citation was
Other than
issued.
that,
it
I mean, I'm a little confused if you're talking about the like, unauthorized accumulation ones, or if you're talking about the zoning violations that Ashley referenced.
I think she's
The
talking
ones,
about
Everything.
the ones that Ashley
Everything.
referenced, my understanding was she just sent them out yesterday. So
Okay,
that's-
I didn't mean to raise my
that's
voice, I apologize. I just don't understand why the building department would work with these people that are violating the property for so long. I don't understand it. I know that that's not for you to answer, but it just seems kind of weird. Even with this Porter thing, there's a storage container on their building, right, on their, right now, there's a storage container, because I was here the other day and heard her talk about the steel storage container that's on her property. She's using it for storage right now, and she's trying to get a variance so she could, in the future, make something out of it for her chickens.
It's an accessory structure.
So is the one behind my property an accessory structure?
No, it is not.
It's
Okay.
And
not permitted.
we're not talking about the same thing. This one, they're trying to get permission for it. In your situation, and there's not acreage. In the acreage, they might get
It's an acre,
permission for
over
it.
an acre. Sorry.
It's still
I
a
just-
residential zoning district over there.
Yeah.
Without a permit,
Uh-huh.
that is not allowed. It would require a variance and a
Then what's this been
permit.
going on for 20 years?
Because nobody's been watching. That's the problem.
Well, nobody's been watching when they made my subdivision and could see that stuff there? I'm sorry, but, I mean, it's a common question.
Nobody was watching even to try to recoup the money that we spent cleaning that up the first time.
Okay,
you
I
know.
understand. I just want somebody to be watching now because it affects me and my property and, you know, my view and,
I think you have everyone's ear at this point. It sounds like we have zoning issues, we have stormwater issues that you've got lots of issues.
yeah, I do. And, you know, I was just gonna say, because it's, you know, the snow, it's hard to tell right now, so you have to wait to come out. And I appreciate that, because my rain garden's totally covered right now, I can't see it.
Yeah, there's not much we can see,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, so I guess I'll just do a record request.
It is gonna take a little time for this to wrangle its way through whatever it has to wrangle through. It
Yeah.
won't be an immediate.
Okay,
You might come down to the police station tomorrow and ask for the ordinance
Well-
officer and ask her.
the reason I originally come up here is because I just thought that Mr. Oliphant had said, oh, everything's fine, and I'm like, wait, so that's why I just wanted to bring this other stuff, because we talked about topography, and I just wanted to make sure that that was still on record, and then if he does come back, do I have to resubmit all this stuff again? Because if it with,
Mr. Hunley's a former chief of police,
oh,
and he's asked you to go to the police department and check with the code enforcement
yes,
to see if they've gone out there to look at it.
okay, I will do that, but I'm talking about something else, sorry. What I was saying is, when he resubmits, I guess it would be just different, just depending on what he did. Okay, and then the last thing I just wanted to say is, if you have a problem with, notice for Cedar Lake Storage, it's because I got yesterday the certified letter for them. So, I think your legals are out of order.
Well, that's not our legals, that's Attorney Viss that comes from Attorney Viss.
Okay, well, I'm just letting you know. Do you want it?
Well, he's gotta give us proof that he served everybody.
Okay, but I don't live there.
Yeah, she doesn't live anywhere near there.
That was my assumption from all of this, but
And I was gonna tell him, but he's gone.
the burden is on him to demonstrate that he properly served everyone.
Okay, well, you'll see my signature on one of the cards, and I'm not.
And I'll also compare it to the county
Yeah.
auditor's list and see your name's not listed.
Yeah, okay, so, I guess that was it. So, just be patient as far as removing the stuff?
They were given a specific amount of time to bring it into compliance. Should it not be brought into compliance, they will be assessed, a fine will be assessed in accordance with the zoning ordinance.
Okay, could you tell me the amount of time?
They were given 5 days,
5 days?
5 business days.
Okay,
Our typical standard is 10,
Well,
so they were given a
there's
reduction
on
from
Billy,
that.
I guess.
okay.
That Billy's not here, he doesn't know.
So then what would I expect? Well, would the town come and do something if he's, or if he's gonna
After
leave him there?
the time period has lapsed, I would send a building inspector out, should it, if it's not brought into compliance in the time period allotted, I would then send a new notification advising of the fine, and telling him, and he still has to bring the property into compliance.
Then it goes to court, possibly.
And is there,
It depends on if the fine's paid or not.
I thought I saw in the ordinance that they could be fined, and then every single day there's like a $25 fine or something like
It
that.
states in there that every day that it's not brought into compliance could be counted as a separate offense.
Okay,
And it wouldn't necessarily have to be limited to $25.
no, well,
It could be more.
It
that sounds-
starts at 25 and goes all the way up to 2,500 based on the level of infraction and how often they've been noticed.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Is there a formula for 2 weeks of this, 6 weeks of that, 2 months of this, 2 months of that? Is there just a protocol, a reoccurring, assignment of moving forward?
Our standards that we have established in the building department with any property that's in violation, for example, we find a property that they're working on the house without a permit. The inspector puts a stop work order. If in 10 business days they've not contacted the building department or submitted a building permit, the inspector goes out and puts up a second stop work order. Another 10 business days goes by. There's still no contact, still no permit. I then send a notice of violation of the zoning ordinance. They have another 10 business days to contact the building department or get anything in. Should they don't do that, then they start getting fines in accordance with the zoning ordinance. That's kind of the end of the road.
Okay, and that 10-day thing is kind of similar for everything?
We've made it standard across the board. That way, nobody can try and say that we picked 10 days for me, but you picked 7 days for
Okay,
them.
right.
How is it I got 7, but they got 10? You're giving preferential treatment. So we try to keep it consistent.
I'm only asking because anybody who has these kind of questions can anticipate the next
We
the next move.
try and make it consistent across the board. That way, we cannot be accused of treating somebody more or less fairly than another.
Who enforces the payment?
It comes into the building department to be receipted in, and if it's not receipted in, then I send it off to Dave and his team for the final step, which is when legal gets involved, and then they can incur any and all fees involved with that legal expenditure.
So we're talking over a month and a half, 2 months from the first citation probably then.
Most of the time, we don't even get past the letter. Most of the time, once they get the stop work order, they're calling the building department. Very few have gotten to the level where it gets a fine, and none of them have actually gotten to the fine.
Okay, have you answered all your questions?
No, there's just one thing I
I'd
want.
like to see if somebody else wants to speak. You've been up there for quite a while, so.
Okay, can I say one last thing, sir?
Quick.
Okay, it seems to be that I'm being unreasonable, but it's not mentioned to some of these board members here or committee members and maybe people in the audience that Ashley had told this gentleman 8 months ago to take that stuff down. So we're just giving him more and more time. And I just wanted to make that clear because I do feel bad because it's my neighbor that I have to keep coming up here.
Ma'am, no one up here thinks, I don't want to speak for everyone, I do not think you're being unreasonable whatsoever.
And I'm just wondering why 8 months ago it wasn't done, because it would be gone by now, and my drainage problem would be better.
Because
Thank
one
you.
reason is because we don't do that.
I understand. I just
Okay.
wanted it on record
So-
about me
Yeah.
being reasonable, because it's been more than 5 days.
It's all on record now.
Thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other, public comment?
Good evening, Terry Brothers, 14513 Morris. I just wanted to try to shed a little light on the conversation that we've been having about this last property. There was a couple comments made about him having access to his property through that driveway off of Klein. But technically, he really doesn't. If you look at the GIS, that property is not connected to his home property, and as you guys know, probably already know, I believe in the zoning, you're not allowed two entrances to a single residential property. So if he did connect the two properties, meaning his house and the property that he's got all the storage on, he would have to probably get rid of one entrance. Now, either way, it works out for the town because the taxes would go up if he connected it to his existing home. It might make it a little bit harder to develop that land behind. But what we have to remember, in all reality, technically, the driveway off of Klein is access to that property only, not to the house. Technically, all the stuff on that property is stored on a residential property with no primary structure. You know, going round and round, and I agree with Mr. Kapoor, going round and round about the same things, sometimes it gets monotonous, but at the same time, when you do go round and round, you pick up on things that might have been missed in conversation. These are some of the things that are important, and, you know, these are some of the things, some of the tools that could help the town administrate and enforce some new rules. Being that the properties are not connected, they
are
are
connected.
eligible to have individual access.
Terry, they're connected. They're contiguous.
I'm sorry, when you put it on the board, they don't come up together.
This one. His entire
Yeah,
rear portion of his connects to the.
Yeah, but if they
to
were
the
connected
parcel
on when
in
they come up under one blue, I mean, I own a lot of property in town.
No,
When
they're
they're connected,
separate
they come
PIN
up
numbers,
together.
Terry. There's nothing says you can't restrict a homeowner from accessing one parcel that's contiguous. They have a shared property line.
So if he built, let me ask you a question, then, Don, if he builds houses on that property that we're talking about, would he still be able to have access to his house?
If he
No.
owns both, why wouldn't he? Not a road. It's
So-
just an access point, not a road.
So if I go on that GIS and punch up that PIN number, it's gonna all come under one PIN number? It's not gonna come under
No,
one
they're
PIN number
two
for the
separate
house?
parcels owned by
Separate
the
PIN number
same
for the other?
person.
I understand they're owned by the same, but Don, if they're not under the same PIN number, they're not connected.
Purchase this
The
property.
key numbers are only done by the auditor. The key numbers don't really have a ton to do with
Okay,
it.
then I'll do a little more research.
so connected
I
means-
definitely am gonna come back on this, because as I've connected some properties on, that I own,
Huh? If you own two parcels next to each other, you can drive between them.
as I've connected properties that I own, Don, I've realized how to connect them, how you can't connect them, why you can't, how I get access. In fact, I've been fighting access to my
I'm
property
hearing
for 3
too many
years.
conversations out there, I can't hear totally what he's saying.
Thank you, Bob. As you already know, I've been battling access to property now for going on 3 years, Don. And what I'm saying is, when you punch up that property, if they were connected, they'd all come up blue together. I'm sorry, thank you.
If they combine the parcels, he's allowed to keep them separate. Anybody is.
They'd come up blue together, Don.
The key here is it's contiguous.
It's contiguous. It's a shared property
It's
line.
continuous, they'd come up
Good
blue
evening.
together.
Hi, Jennifer Prensky, 14617 Blaine Street. Two things, and I don't know if I'm in the right form or not. I would like to ask that there's a moratorium being brought forward on the tabled items. We don't have to talk about it, but I'm asking that we don't move forward on anything, even things that are tabled, until we have a better idea where we're at with infrastructure.
I agree.
So, I know, John, you're kind of giving me that look, but I'm just, I know that we
I
can't.
look like that to everybody.
I know, I have the same look too. I'm just asking that, I know that these are tabled, I'm asking that they stay tabled, whether it's here or any other meeting. I'm gonna continue to ask that this group and any other group consider the moratorium on any more permitting moving forward on any other items that any other developers that are asking. So we have a better, as a town, where we're at with sewer, water, infrastructure, traffic studies, the schools, everything, period.
This commission here is the only one who could remove those from the table.
Okay,
So it's some people sitting up here.
all right, that's my two.
And so-
Yeah, we're just as concerned about those items as you are.
We can't comment on those items, so.
I understand, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents, and the other thing that I want to talk about is, all the meetings tonight tend to be pointing back to code enforcement officer. I've had my own interaction with code enforcement, and honestly, we didn't get a chance to have public comment about the unsafe buildings and properties. However, I can tell you that the code enforcement officer told me that she's incredibly busy and doesn't really, well, how do I want to put this? And actually, our own town here, Ashley herself told me on a particular home that they will get to it when they get to it. Code enforcement officer took quite some time to get back to me because I don't know if she was off work or working part-time. But again, it's pointing back to that this is a full-time problem, that these things have been going on. Sorry, I can't really turn my head very well. There are homes around here in this area that have been on these lists and areas of concern for decades. And if we have people just working part-time, or they'll get to it when they'll get to it, I mean, you guys can talk all night to your blue in the face, but fundamentally, it's pointing back at some particular people that aren't either taking these issues seriously. She told me she's very busy going to court. She had 20-some cases. I mean, we are never going to get anywhere with the way that the code enforcement is structured. I mean, honestly, I wish that I could full-time do this for you, because somebody really needs, this town needs full-time effort. If Ashes tell me they're going to get to it when they get to it, and it was in the fall, and not in quite the busy season for permitting, that's what I got from her.
Can I provide clarification on that? I told you Tony had it, and when he had a moment to get out and inspect the property, he would. At the time, we were short a building inspector because a building inspector had passed away, and we had not filled that position.
And Ashley, I understand that, but this town is moving forward. Taxes are being paid. We're doing our part. We're all doing more with less. And this issue of unsafe buildings, it's getting worse. And it's that kind of attitude. I have to drive by it. I have to see these homes, and that's a whole other conversation. What makes one home more unsafe or unsightly? We need to be pushing these nuisance. Start writing these tickets, more than grass, more than that. I mean, and it's a full-time job. Or whoever's doing it, do this job for 20, 25 hours. Is that person really putting in 20, 25 hours into this effort? I question that.
I agree with you. I hope you heard tonight that we are making a plan.
But, our resident here, I mean, if we would be just writing these nuisances. I mean, nuisances are going to be anything. It's very broad. Unsightly, is it loud, is there an odor? Just start writing them. Make this person do their job. And if not, find somebody that can. I think it's great that building is going to be able to help out. Maybe multiple people can be involved. But as a town, we're failing. I mean, I use the particular home as kind of a test. I had the Board of Health reach out to the town. They shared with me the comment that they got. And, I mean, it's a joke, it's sad. But again, we have to take this seriously. I agree, period. So that's my 2 cents.
Before you sit down, I need to ask, that WJOB, the JOB report,
Is that a radio station?
the JMOB report,
Mhm.
I can share that, right? She's mentioned moratorium.
They would need to come and fill out a public records request.
No, I'm gonna tell her what I read in that report.
I don't know. I'm not involved in that, but there's some,
And you know our firm can't touch that, so
there's some,
if you're gonna talk about that, I
there's
guess.
some security risks. I don't know what's in it, but I would be mindful of that.
They're like HIPAA law?
It's like,
There-
it's regarding sanitary
It's
sewer.
Homeland Security stuff.
It's regarding sanitary sewer.
I don't know.
When it comes to
I'm just saying, I don't ever see
sanitary
it.
sewers and water and, stuff like that, there are federal guidelines of what can and cannot be shared, and I'm not sure
I don't
what those guidelines are. It's a
care.
Homeland Security.
I don't care about that. My point is that we can have developers keep approaching us, previous town council, whoever, planning commission could have told builders, yes, we're gonna let you have this many homes and we're gonna do that. But at the end of the day, none of that means anything until we know where we're at with this. And, you know, I mean, I'm sure that developers are probably gonna sue the town because previous members said, yes, you can do this and you can do that without actually knowing what those firm numbers are. I again am gonna continue to hold all of you responsible, you know, for trying to enforce. And I don't wanna hear it's not my job, or we're gonna do this part-time. We're a full-time town. You're taking our taxes, and the taxes are gonna go up. Everything's going up, we expect it. But, you know, whatever people are doing in the past, I appreciate moving forward. But a lot is pointing back to code enforcement. 25 hours, you know, that person needs, firsthand experience, wasn't really getting a lot of urgency, you know. Grass is grass, but I mean, houses falling down, you know, isn't the town responsible if these unsightly buildings are sitting around and somebody gets hurt on one of these properties? Why don't we maybe consider an auction process, that we can auction off these properties and have very firm stipulations that whoever buys these properties have certain rules that they have to adhere to, whether developing, cleaning it, maintaining it? I mean, it's just a thought. I don't know. I don't know all the answers, but it's just you hear somebody talk, it's been 20 years, and the house down our street's been 10 years, you know, what, 20 years down for your house?
I've been complaining for 14 years.
And I know it's
Every
a
time
new
I
group.
hear every.
I know it's new and you guys have so much on your plate, but I don't want to call again and just be told, you know, we're going to get to this, we're going to do it. I want to also know, is there, you know, a data file? I can't come to the town and fill out forms. Is there going to be some sort of a shared file that if somebody has a complaint, they will know if the house is, where it's at in a process or a property? You know, somebody could say, oh, 14617 Bryan, yes, this is on the list. This is where we're at with the town. Even if the town said, it's on the list, we want to tear it down, we don't have the money, at least we know that it's at that process.
So if you look over to the screen, there is an open data portal on the
Okay.
town site. That one goes over every existing house that is in some form of active level at the unsafe.
Okay. I just think, you know, not everybody's real savvy with that stuff, just pointing those things out if somebody calls, you know, yes, let me go ahead and look this up. It is in our database, we are working on it, just something. I don't want to hear, we don't have the people. Nobody has the people anymore, it's the American way, it really is. But again, I appreciate your efforts moving forward, we support you. We just see more for this town in the current state that we're in, you know. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Real quick, Mr. President, Jerry, as a follow-up to your earlier question, I will reach out to Dave and Neil and see how much of that report can actually be shared with the public. That way I can give you the best answer I can next time.
Yeah, that's good. I just, you know, there's a,
Yeah,
it's simple.
right, if there's some
Okay.
level of concern of how much can be shared, I want to find out exactly if it all
Yeah.
can be shared, that way you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there is a JMOB meeting coming up.
Yes, it's gonna be well, I'm not sure when it's gonna be scheduled.
It's at 5 o'clock, but I forget the date off the top of my head. And at that time, that's open to the public. Anybody that wants to go to that meeting can attend it.
That's February 13th at 5 o'clock is what it's scheduled for.
February 13th at 5 o'clock.
Keep saying that, they might cancel it again.
At least it's not our plans.
Don't tell too many people.
Okay, we got a comment up there?
Kenny Daschle, 14321 Lakeshore Drive. Actually, I'm just gonna shed a little light on the gentleman with the trailers. If I remember correctly, Bob, maybe you might too, that gentleman was here about 3 months ago.
Central 5900
He claimed he was gonna claim hardship on that property. That's exactly what he said, standing up here at this podium. That he was gonna claim hardship, that he didn't have the cash to do anything with it. That he hired an attorney. That's just a point of interest I thought I'd bring up. Number two, I agree with this young lady that was just up here, and there's gotta be a way around what we're doing. You are now the new planning commission, very important commission. And we need to sit down, even if it takes townspeople, and figure a way to make the process shorter. I sat here the other day when Steve Jobs was up here, you may recall, you were here, and he said, this has been unplanned for a long time. You were here, Mr. Parker. And then his smart lawyer said, well, 15 years, give or take a few, it shouldn't matter. Well, yes, it does. 15 years, a lot of things can happen. A lot of things can change. We shouldn't have to wait 15 years for some kind of building to start for something that was planned 15 years ago. There should be a time limit on these things. 3 to 5 years. If you haven't got it done, start over. Because it's just not right to the people of the town. It's not right to you people on the commission. It's too much work. That's why things aren't getting done. Because you're rehashing over things that are old and old and old. And, Mr. Kafir, I just, you're a bad subject. The storage building.
That's not the first time I heard that.
Okay? The point that I'm gonna make with that is a real simple one. I remember my neighbor named Nick, and he had built one of the most beautiful decks I had ever seen in Cedar Lake. And because he did not have the proper permits, he had to tear it out. Well, when this guy put in the plans for a pole barn, was it a pole barn or a home? Either or, permits are missing from one or the other. Tear it down, start over. My answer completely. If you don't have the permits, you didn't have the time to bother, take it down. It's an eyesore to Cedar Lake. End of story. I know it sounds easy. It's probably not easy. But if you didn't have the proper permits, it shouldn't have ever been built in the first place. Somebody had to come before this planning commission and give you a plan. Was it a pole barn? Or was it a home?
It wasn't approved yet, so
So, either or.
we're working on it.
He don't have the permits.
Pardon?
He didn't have the permits for what he's doing. If he made it a living residence right now, and they're living in it,
No.
he didn't have the permits.
No. Nothing's been done there. No, it's totally different subject.
I think he's misunderstanding.
Your
I
plan-
misunderstood. My understanding was they were living in it already.
No, they haven't built it yet. They're
Okay.
just trying to get permission to
We'll
build
move
it.
on from there, but let's go back to the time factor. What do you think we can do about it? Anyone have any idea?
The zoning ordinance in it does have built in that any PUD development, the development agreement, the development plans have to be started within 18 months of approval. Only one extension can be asked for. It can be granted for up to 6 months. After that, the development plan expires. They have to redo that development plan. It is extended by way of permit. So if in 18 months, they've done their plans, they've got their plats, they're pulling their first building permit, the plan is able to be good and continue to move forward. Similar to our primary plats, when they come in as a big development and they plat one phase, it extends the primary plat expiration deadline. So it's built, there is a fail-safe built into the ordinance for planned unit development.
Then how come this Red Cedars project has been so long?
It's on the table for it's not moved forward. They don't even have any form of approval.
The problem I'm having is I still see, like that lawyer, where did he get 15 years?
Mr. Daschle, I'm not, because of those items being on the table, we are not allowed to
I
comment or
understand,
speak on
that's
them
why I
at all.
stopped.
Okay.
But I'm still saying, why can't we find a way to move some of this up?
Ashley just told you, we're trying.
I have a neighbor that was trying to build a house next door to me. And they were in here and in here and in here trying to get permission to build this house, and it was one stronghold after another. And then I see other builders come in here, and it's carte blanche.
Okay, thank you for your comments, sir. Is there any other comments? Any other comments? Not, the public session is closed. Next, Plan Commission meeting is February 7th. It'll be a work session. We are adjourned.